Hello and welcome to Connect to Love here on PRNFM. I am Lisa LeRose and I'm joined by the amazing and wonderful Michael J. Russ. Welcome, Michael. How are you today?
I'm awesome. We were talking about automobiles and before the show, and you said you had a nail in your tire. I just paid $1,400 to have get my car fixed yesterday. So it's like we're both on the same page with regard to where we are in life. Isn't that neat?
Mhm. Yep, it is. It is. Well, it's definitely.
It's always great to go.
Thank you. It's so fabulous to join you. I was looking at a quote this morning, and it says, "Well, we succumb to the negative influences of life as it is. We will remain blissfully ignorant of what life really has in store for us." And I thought about that, and I thought,
focus.
geez, wow, how many times do we take time to stand back and really look at the world around us? You look at where we've been talking about self-discovery, and I'd love to delve into how we look at how far we've come, what we've accomplished, how incredible our achievements are, and just sort of see what it is that we do to design the destiny that we want with intention and balance and positivity and greater meaning of what it is. I mean, we set these personal goals and values, but if they don't have meaning to us or they're devoid of meaning, we kind of wander around aimlessly, and that's sort of, I think, what the quote talks about. We succumb to the negative influence of life rather than being an active participant in what it is that we do. So, Michael, I'll let you start off on that wonderful.
Run with that for a couple of moments. Okay,
yeah.
Here's what I want to tell you. It's really interesting that this is our topic today. As our listeners know, we unscript this and we kind of see where it runs. It's interesting that you say this, and when you were talking about just kind of describing intention and things of that nature with regard, what came to my mind is what I hear from people sometimes. People who say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm just trying to get through the day." You're trying to what? I'm just trying to get through the day. Somebody who's stressed out. It's a common refrain. When somebody you see is moving, and they have scowls on their face and everything else. Say, "Hey, what's going on? I'm just trying to get through the day, man. I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm stressed out. I'm moving." Whatever plan they had in the morning, if they had a plan, went out the window at some particular point during the day. It's gone. It's like it got flushed, right? Because something else came up. And I always like to say, choice is what we have. Choices. We make choices, dozens and dozens of choices throughout the day. And we can choose when we get up in the morning to pursue a positive path of thought or a negative path of thought. Sometimes we just make this decision passively based on the first thing we encounter. Somebody who has a path of in the morning of getting out of bed and taking care of themselves and getting themselves all dressed up and dolled up, ready to go to work, or they have kids or whatever. They go turn on the TV and they hear the news and they hear the story of the day, and the story of the day is generally negative. And I ask them, why did you do that? Why did you interject? Because we're trained to do that. We're trained to get up and to see what's going on in the world, when basically we don't even have our own world together yet. We haven't set the stage for our own state of being, and we're already having our wonky state of being disrupted by toxicity. Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about outside toxicity. So if you've got children and you've got to get those children up and get them to school, the question you have to ask yourself is, what is my routine? How am I setting a positive state of being for myself and for my kids? Am I just barking orders? Or am I going and looking in the eye and say, hey, welcome to the world again, wake up, welcome to a new day. It's going to be a great day. You can do anything, that kind of path, that path of positivity, inspiration, and motivation for your children. Or you go into just bark orders and get up, get dressed, come on, do this, do that, I'm cooking this, come in here and get some breakfast, blah, 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 the little rote stuff. And then before you know it, it's, okay, bye-bye, you're off to school. And I'm like, even if you don't have kids, I know people who do this with their partner, whoever their significant other is. And I've said what I do every morning with regard to waking up and setting some sort of intention of intimacy, saying I love you, holding hands in bed under the covers before we get up and get out. It's the little things like that really, in my view, set the stage for your state of being. I mean, I think what I think about is, in terms of even when I do, my own podcast or I do talks and stuff, is how do you convey to people that their frequency, their vibrational frequency in the morning, what they get up with and what they start the day with is completely by choice. Totally by choice. It is. It's not. You're not a ship without a rudder that gets blown around by whatever is in the wind that day. You have the ability to make positive choices and take a positive direction. And you can fly from high frequencies or you can fly from low frequencies. And that's a choice that you make either subconsciously, passively, whatever. Don't think you make that. Don't think you have that choice, but you do. And that's what came to mind when you started this conversation, is choices, and what we can choose that direction. Every single moment we can choose that direction. I'm always giving golf analogies. I've seen people play a game of golf where they start off great, and then it all goes to heck in a handbasket. Okay, it just deteriorates. It implodes. Okay, at some particular point in the round, it implodes. And the question that I can see it happening before it does when I'm playing with people, because I can see that everything's great, and then they have one bad shot, some shot that just totally went awry, that kind of messed up their expectation. Their expectation became disconnected. It was blown out of the water. Everything was going great. This happens in life, because golf is just like life. You have everything going for you. You have a meeting at 9:00, and then you get into a traffic jam because somebody had an accident, some unforeseen situation. So you're stuck in traffic, and you're going to miss your 9:00 meeting. What do? You can sit around and get upset about it. You can let that outside influence disrupt your state of being, take your frequencies from happy and joyful and looking forward to life and looking forward to the day to, oh boy, this is terrible. Just take a nosedive. Sort of like that B-17 that just got hit, and it's in a tailspin going down, and that's you. And at some particular point, you're going to crash mentally. And so what's neat about this life that we live is that we have the capability to maintain an awareness of what our state of being is, and that we can set an intention when we get up. Actually, I like to set the intention before I go to bed. It's much easier. Then I wake up great, and just move forward. It's this is the kind of stuff that I think about more than anything else. It fascinates me to see people in a positive state, and then see exactly what happens in their life, and they respond to it in a negative way, and it disrupts their entire frequency. They're done. Their day was disrupted because of this unforeseen, uncontrollable situation, event. And it could be also of their own making. In golf, the shot is of your own making. There are things that occur, but most of the time it's you guiding yourself around the course. In life, you can do the exact same thing. Guide yourself around the course. 365 days of wonder. You mentioned this. I'd love to know just a couple of the suggestions that I want to know, because I don't have 365 days of wonder in my mind. I'm taking this a day at a time. But it's interesting.
Like RuPaul said, life is about using the whole box of crayons. That's for March 30th. That's they're little sayings that's just on there. Each day has a different thought. The man who moves a mountain must first start by moving small stones. Chinese proverb. Treat others how you want to be treated. Another proverb. Martin Luther King. I believe the unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word. I mean, how powerful is that? And, Michael, I'm so happy that you brought up resonance and frequency and vibration, because so many people, I really don't think they understand what powerful creators they are. And that positive thinking truly can change the world. I think it was Thomas Edison that said if we did all the things in life that we were capable of, we could literally astound ourselves. And I think about that a lot. A friend of mine many years ago, goes all the way back to the 70s. Her husband was an attorney, and she was on a scientific path, and she went to an event, and Maharishi, the yogi, was there. And for those of you who don't know, he was the founder of Transcendental Meditation. And she said all these people were giving him flowers. They all came armed with all of these different flowers, and nobody, she didn't know that that's what she was supposed to do, because that wasn't her world. So she looked around and she found some daisies, some wild daisies, and she picked one. And she said when she handed it to him, and it was done with loving intent, a gift, just a small gift to him, she said the amount of energy she felt literally flooded her body. Said she was just blinded by all of the love that came from this man. And they both gave up their professions and traveled with him during his time in the United States. But what's so interesting about Maharishi was the Transcendental Movement actually undertook a study of 24 American cities that were greater than 10,000. And he said that you could change the violence and the break-ins that were going on even if just 1% of the population meditated. So they did that experiment. And I'm not sure exactly where. I think the meditators were all over the world, all over the country, and they picked a specific time that they would literally send their thoughts to be, peaceful and loving, and just to world. They didn't know who it was going to be being sent to. But after the experiment, they found that there was an average of 16% decrease in the break-ins, robberies, less violence, even fewer murders. And I mean, how amazing is that? I mean, just raising the coherent state of the collective consciousness makes a palpable change in what's going on.
That is true. Yeah, I'm another. There was a woman who was a teacher in a school, an elementary school, in a very rough neighborhood, and she was responsible for detention at the end of the day. All the students that were acting out, got sent to detention, right? And she had a bright idea to teach these kids meditation. And she had no idea what she was doing when she did that with regard to how it was going to impact these kids' lives. Teaching them how to, you see, it's based on the fact that there's so much we cannot control. And when you spend all of your time, all your energy, and all of your focus trying to or attempting to control what is uncontrollable, other people, what they say, what they think, what they do, and when you're at home, your parental situation, you can't control whether your parents stay together or not. You can't control which parent you live with. You can't control how much money is made, whether you have food on the table. If you're in elementary school, you're basically your life is pretty much subject to the whims of your elders, your parents and others. And in school, your teachers and the curriculum that's being taught. There's so much you cannot control. And so a lot of acting out occurs as a result. And what this teacher did was she taught these students who were in detention, who were basically who were told they were the worst of the worst. Okay, this is number one, for being why they were sent there. Taught them how to take control of themselves and how they feel. You see, that's what meditation does. It is something. It helps you manage you. You're managing you from the moment. That's what it's about. Is you managing your state of being, managing your frequencies. And when she taught them that this was something they could do, all of a sudden they had something that they could control, and they started controlling themselves. Mm-hmm. And the rest is history. For them, never came back to detention and went on to improve in grades and do wonderful things, all because they learned this simple method of controlling themselves. And I've always said, someone who's very stressed out is trying to control something that's uncontrollable. That you're beating your head against the wall. You're trying to move a wall that cannot be moved. Right. You think you can move it, however you can't. Well, the only thing you can control is you, your thoughts, your inner conversations, what you think you're capable of, your responses to life, your actions, and you can control your thoughts. You have control only of that. That's in this life. That's all you do control. So if you take control of it, anything can happen. And by the way, I must tell you, I had one of my clients' sons was part of the what is the organization that he was part of, the Yogananda? What was the organization?
It was Maharishi.
Was
so
it?
It was a
Maharishi.
person. Yeah, Maharishi. So it was transcendental meditation.
Right.
And I don't know. Yeah.
There was a city in the United. Yeah, there was a city I think it was outside St. Louis, where her son went. Now, he was part of this organization of where they. I'm not going to say they were monks. They practiced transcendental meditation for like 8 hours a day. Mm-hmm. It was an enclave, and he was telling me one time about how they. What they meditated on, and he was part. They're the ones that did this study that you were talking about. He was part of that, where they were applying in every country in the world. They're all together in one particular place. It was St. Louis. It was somewhere else before it was St. Louis, and they moved there.
I wonder if
they had a compound,
like either Jerusalem or somewhere overseas, because I think what they found was that people didn't have to be in the same location, and that they only needed, I think, 100 people to shift what was going on, which was like 1% of the population or less, and that was what they said, that if they had 85,000 meditators, they could, at that time, I don't know how many, what the population is of the planet now, but I believe there was 7 billion people on the earth then, and that was how many people were needed to shift the consciousness of the planet. So, what you do matters. I mean, you may not think
That's
so,
true.
And going back to your book, The 365 Days of Wonder, Aldous Huxley said there's only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. And I love that.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah, there was a wonderful woman who was an actress who was just on. She was just on the on TV. She wrote a book, a autobiography, and her name is Jennifer Lewis. She's a black actress, and she's a black character actress. And she said, when you know you are, we know who you are, and you trust yourself going into the room. When you know who you are, you trust yourself going into the room. And that's any room. The other thing she said is live while you live, which is, I think, 4 very powerful words. Live while you live. A lot of people I know, again, are just getting through the day. And this is where the whole, hump day, thank goodness it's Friday, and manic Mondays come from. Because out of 7 days out of the week, which you can do anything with, you can arrange them in your own mind. You can approach them in any way you choose. Why would you choose to see Monday as the worst day and Friday as the best day? And Wednesday as the straddle day. Oh, well, between good and bad, between positive and negative. When you have that ability to make any and every day your absolute best day, to me, that's the difference in terms of my thinking and a lot of people around me, even my own girlfriend, who loves life, loves travel, loves doing things. We have many things that we share together, including golf. And I had somebody the other day ask me this question about how do you manage your state of being in a relationship where your significant other isn't on the same wavelength as you. And my answer to them is don't judge them for not being on the same wavelength as you. Don't see them differently. Don't judge them. Don't see them differently. You do what you do. They do what they do. Don't try to push your thing on them. Hopefully they're not trying to push their thing on you. We are individuals. And she said, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I said, your path, and this is the other thing too, which is interesting, that I learned just recently, which is however you move through life to if you're in the context of a relationship or a friendship, family, whatever you got, because everybody's not on the same wavelength, your strength creates a frequency that resonates well beyond you. We know that. And when you focus on yourself and you make yourself as strong as you can be, when you focus on elevating your own conscious awareness through whatever methods you choose. You don't have to share those methods with other people. You're not looking for other people's acceptance of your methods, acknowledgement of your methods. As a matter of fact, best thing to do is don't share your methods. You do what you do to be who you are. You know what I'm saying? This tendency of, I want to let my friends know what I'm doing because I feel so good about it. And you don't need somebody else's approval in life to manage your frequency, to elevate your own conscious awareness. You don't need other people's approval. You don't need their permission. Whatever methods you choose to use, and I have many different methods, and I know you do as well. If you decide to energize crystals and use them as part of your meditation, that's nobody's business but yours. Because all somebody else is going to do is judge you for whatever it is that you're doing, because they have their own ideas about what you're doing. And why would you open up your own subconscious to skeptics?
I have a funny story. It's very interesting, how, whether you call it a curse or a hex or just, somebody, speaks their words to you. And I choose, a lot of times not to accept it. I'm like, okay, well, thank you for your opinion, but I'm kind of following my own path. When I bought my house, I was 25, and I had a certain budget. I could only afford so much, and I was on a limited amount of money that I could spend and afford, and I didn't want my payments. I didn't want to be in debt to a house. And one of my best friends from high school, we grew up in the same community, came to take a look at my house, and he said, I bought the worst house on a good street, but it was in the city. And he said to me at the time, he said, you're never going to go anywhere in life living here. I was like, wow. not geez, I'm so happy you bought your home, you're only 25, there's lots of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
here. But what's so interesting about as you journey through the years, and my house is transformed and the neighborhood's transformed, and now there's a house down the street that's selling for like $429,000, and another one that's just sold for $800,000, and upwards of lots of. But that wasn't what the neighborhood that I bought into.
Right.
But I didn't accept that. I didn't accept that I wasn't going to succeed, or that where I lived would be a hindrance to what I was going to achieve in my life. And I look back on that, and it's interesting to see where different people's perceptions are. I don't know if did you ever see the movie The Secret Life of Walter Mitty by any chance with Ben Stiller?
Yes. Yeah, I did. I'm not going to tell you. I can go back and scene by scene, or pick a
basically,
scene.
he was a man that lived a very simple life. He worked for Life magazine. He was in charge of cataloging the slides.
Yes. Okay. Now. Yes.
In the
Absolutely.
magazine.
Yep.
And he was very meticulous about his job. And there was one slide that was missing, and he thought, oh my gosh, I've got to go after this photographer. He's like the most amazing photographer. I've got to see if I can get this slide. And in this whole adventure, basically, he would go to work every day, and he had his office job. And next thing you know, he was riding through mountains. He was coming up of volcanoes and shark-infested waters, and totally his world came to life. And I don't want to ruin the movie for those who haven't seen it. But
you've got to see the movie. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So
because
you
it's not what you think.
Yeah, it's not what you think. I don't want to ruin it. But, when that
photo
went missing.
It's never what you think. Right.
Yeah, right. So if you look at your life, watch the movie, but then also look at your life like that missing slide. Like what is going to fill that spot? I mean, you're not limited by one thing. You have a myriad of things to choose from in this lifetime. Like as you said, you get up in the morning. We had a water main break here. I didn't, stomp up and down because I turned my taps on and I don't have water coming out. I mean, they're doing the best they can. I won't have water till at least 2:00 in the morning. Maybe sooner, maybe not.
Of course. One of the things about the movie, though, with Ben Stiller that I found really interesting is, without no spoiling whatsoever, is just how we in life think that the thing we think is most important doesn't end up being the most important thing.
Right.
And it just blows you away when you see that all this energy that you dedicate to something. And I find, we find ourselves doing this all the time. We think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the direction I'm supposed to take. This is what's most important. And we're focused on we're micromanaging our path to this thing, missing the fact that from the big picture, that isn't the most important thing. And for the people who've never seen the movie, you have to see it just to understand that. And because the movie brings it to life in a way that is so cherished. It is a beautiful ending to a movie.
Oh, just absolutely.
I dare anyone not to shed a tear at the end of that movie because it is so heartwarming.
Oh my gosh, I was a mess.
It's so heartwarming. Yeah, and because all this running around the world and how many people are out there? How many of our listeners are out there running from point A to point Z, thinking that what they're doing is the most important thing, and it's not. It's something completely different. We're missing the whole meaning behind life because we're chasing an idea that someone else implanted in our minds.
Right.
Someone else planted the idea of, well, let's go back to your house. This gentleman said, you'll never be successful living in that house. The point is, that's a huge thought virus. If you bite into that one, if you adopt that as your own, it's going to make life a little bit challenging every time you wake up or every time you walk in your front door, because you'll be thinking that'll be a limiting thought for you. However, you had the wherewithal to say, where I live isn't who I am. Where I live isn't who I am. Who I am is who I become, who I see myself becoming, what I imagine for myself. This is a roof over my head. And what you probably didn't see at the time is how neighborhoods transform. Mm-hmm. They evolve and they change. And there's no way in the world you could have known at the time that it was going to evolve into the neighborhood that it is today. However, for you, it was the perfect place to be for you in your life, and you didn't see it be a limiting factor for you. And I love that. Right. That's fantastic. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, my house was built in 1902, so it has a lot of character. Mm-hmm. And, you were taxed on how wide your house was. It was
really?
Its own little city. Yeah, it was actually, that's how you were taxed. And so the houses are narrow, and then they go back, and then they go up, which, was
shotgun,
really
yeah.
really creative.
We call them in New Orleans. Yeah, down here in New Orleans they're called shotgun homes. Shotgun.
Yeah. Wow.
They're very narrow,
fun.
And they go back a long way, and they can go up. The footprint is small and goes back a ways. I bet you it's really beautiful. That's really gorgeous.
I'm still in the same house, and I express myself with color. I have very few white walls. I have paintings on the walls. I mean, it became, it was, I think you only do a house like this once in a lifetime, maybe more than that, but for me it was like a once in a lifetime thing. The sanding the floors, and I was on a limited budget back then, and I got very creative, and my house is my home, and I made it that, and I think it's a good metaphor for even our own lives. You
True.
are what you make, what it is that you make of something, how do you, whether you want to paint your nails pink, purple, green, there's all kinds of colors under the sun, or do your eye makeup or whatever it is. I mean, if it makes you happy, truly makes you happy, you're not doing it for somebody else or just to fit in. You are doing it because it makes you feel good.
Well, this is an interesting topic, because we live in a society today that is very much driven by public opinion. Mm-hmm. And our goal here is to know ourselves, And when we know ourselves inside and out, and we are in charge of our own evolution, thought-wise, conscious awareness-wise, when we are creating ourselves and designing our lives, there's inherently a huge amount of strength and empowerment in that. It's just, you're unshakable. When you know who you are and you carry yourself as such, knowing who you are, and you don't let other people tell you what you should do, how you should dress, which tattoos you should get. It's interesting, the whole tattoo movement is very tribal, and it's started out as being an individual thing, but now it's a thing.
Right.
It's an end thing, and it's sort of like when someone says if you don't have one, you're not in. That's when you got to decide to do something different, because that's where we go. It's like, wait a minute, what I thought about when you said I'm into color and I have my own art and it's my place and I'm still here, what I thought about is how people, you're not the kind of person, neither am I, who would hire an interior designer, because why would I want to have somebody else's concept of me put around me? My office is a complete and total reflection of me, where I've been, what I've done. I can point to anything that's on a shelf and tell you where it came from and why I bought it and what energy it gives me.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so and it's very cluttered right now because I don't own a house. I'm staying at my house my girlfriend and her ex-husband built back in 1984. However, I did build, personally, I paid for probably about an 800 square foot extension for the house before I moved in. And so I do have kind of a piece of it, but yet, on this particular office of mine is filled with all the artwork I had, most of it. Some of the big pieces I don't have, but are in storage that I kind of collected. And I can look around them and I know exactly where they came from, what I was doing, what I was thinking at the time. It's so wonderful. There's been, you create an environment. You create an environment that reflects your energy. It's highly reflective of your energy, which is what we should do, is create an environment that is reflective of our own energy. Everything in this room has a vibe that's positive about it. And we understand, you do and I do, that when something no longer becomes relevant, we can get rid of it with complete confidence and serve its purpose. We're not hoarders. We don't need to keep things just because we're afraid to get rid of them. Certain things in life, as we evolve, and as each one of our listeners evolve, you have to be willing to let go of things that are no longer relevant for you, that no longer meet your own the level of energy that you're resonating. Maybe when you bought them, you were resonating this energy, and it no longer fits. So when it no longer fits, you have to get rid of it. I did that with
like a good pair
restaurant.
Of jeans.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I'll wear a good pair of jeans out. They'll go to the barn. I'll wear them out at the barn. That's the beautiful thing about it. Oh, they're no longer jeans I wear around. I wear those to the barn now. I get them all messed up. They'll get sweaty and dirty, and every morning that's where they go. But this is the thing about it. I do look at the metaphor of interior designer, life designer. The forces out there in the world that are attempting to get each and every one of us to subscribe to their view of life, to subscribe to their thought processes, what they think we should do with our lives. We have to have a very strong mental constitution to not succumb to that, because in this digital age, that is oppressive. It's oppressive. It can be. It can be because that message the drum keeps beating. If you want to watch something, digital advertising is everywhere. And
100%.
It's attempting to get you to feel inadequate so that you need but you're not inadequate. That's the point. You're not inadequate. And knowing yourself, we were talking about this a couple of episodes ago, knowing yourself, getting understanding, getting a greater understanding of who you are, what you do like, what you don't like, how much of your life was designed by someone else. Did someone else decide that you needed to take the career path that you took? Did someone else decide that you should be in the relationship that you're in? I don't know. Did someone else decide that you needed to have the houses around you designed the way that it's designed? Does it resonate with you? And because this is the way people live. This really happens in life. And self-discovery, self-exploration, self-discovery is about you discovering who you are, the essence of who you are. And maybe the life you're living is not who you are. Maybe it doesn't resonate with you. And your happiness is tied to this.
And before the show, Michael and I were speaking about a song that I got stuck in my head by Michael Bublé. And it's, I just haven't met you yet. And even though, in the video, it's about a love interest. And I said to Michael, I said, as I was listening to the words, I couldn't help but thinking that it's actually could be about you and about the aspects of yourself, because it's like someday I know I'll find that person, but really it's that person that's you, or those aspects of you, and how things sort of come out of nowhere and into your life, and things can be amazing, and you can embrace all of the possibilities that are open to you. And I think, you know, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Michael, because sometimes there are thought viruses, as you know, that we get when we're children. You know, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough. I was with a friend yesterday, and he said, it was really interesting. He said, you know, he's explained that, you know, he's not the most buff guy. You know, he's an artist. He's one of the most incredible people I know. He can do everything and anything. But he said it really bothered him when he was younger because, you know, people would pick on him because he wasn't this big, beefy guy. And he was, like, thinner than other guys. And I've never looked at, you know, it's ironic because I've never looked at him like that. But how that really impacted and bothered somebody. And, you know, he found refuge in his art, which I guess was a gift to us all. But he's also an amazing musician and plays so many different instruments. It just boggles my mind. You know, it seemed like, wow, I didn't know you played that. and he plays in a lot of different bands, and he can pick up, and he was the one who hosted Dixon's Violin not that long ago. But he's created a beautiful space for people to be, and you know, he's really curated and created his own life. But when somebody gives you a thought virus, do you have any tips for our audience members of how to disseminate or change the energy around that, that you would find
you can dispel it.
Valuable to share?
Yeah, you can dispel it. You can dispel it. Awareness is 90% of it. When you become aware that you've been operating under the guise of a thought virus, it's very empowering. Even though you've done, this particular gentleman has done amazing things, and you have to recognize that you've been operating under it. Number one, most people aren't aware that they're actually operating under the guise of a thought virus. They're thinking, oh, it was my idea, it was my decision to do this, and all of a sudden they think, wait a minute, hold on a second. You know, my mother told me to do this. I've said many times that my mother, I don't have a college degree, I didn't finish. I left at 2 3/4 years and from San Jose State, and as my mother said at the time, she said, you know, you're going to need a college degree to be successful. And that thought virus ended up being one of the things that when I really got into a serious career opportunity that everywhere but this one company required a college degree. I was lucky enough to have a manager that looked for certain aspects of character, personality, of people, not just a degree. He was looking for people who could communicate, people like me who were worldly, who could really, who learned to communicate with a wide variety of people, whether they spoke our language or not, spoke English or not. And again, character, morals, ethics, who displayed the ability, you know, he's looking for he wasn't just looking for a degree as a filter, right? Mm-hmm. However, when I got into it, it was one of the things that I discovered was holding me back from being successful. I was working around BAs, MAs, and PhDs, people who had gone to school and gotten the education, and I didn't. I was the only one in the room that didn't have a college degree, and I didn't recognize, and I had let that be a limiting factor to me until I really sat down and discovered how it was impacting me, the way I felt when I came to work every day. And that's when I made the decision to say, okay, wait a minute. I am just as capable, because what the college degree meant nothing. It was just in every other business, it was just a filter. What it meant was, are you worldly? That really is what they're saying. Did you go someplace where you learned about the world, about history, about cultures? Did you go study did you have the focus to get through this thing and to get through these 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or whatever it was? It wasn't the degree itself, is what it represented. What I had that they didn't have was I had basically 7 years of living in other countries and traveling the world before I was 15. What I had was I had developed a knack for befriending anyone in a matter of a minute. I had the capability to make friends on a dime, walk into a room and take command of that room because of my presence, because my head was high and my shoulders were back, and I had a smile that beamed like crazy, that could light up a room that was completely dark. Yeah, I know. I got a lot of teeth in my mouth, the dentist says.
You have a beautiful smile.
However, this particular gentleman, and this is what I would tell him when we speak, I would say, look, it's what when you know who you are, and this is a function of knowing who you are. When you know who you are, what you're capable of, what your strengths are, what your gifts and talents are, that is what is important. These other things they're talking about aren't important. Whether you're scrawny or what. Listen, I was 135 pounds in high school at 5'11", okay? I was scrawny.
Oh, you were fat.
Okay, I was not. Yeah, it's buff hunk. Okay, I had a guy I went to high school with. I saw him at a reunion. I think it was at the 30th reunion. He goes, "Hey," he says, "I'm no buff hunk, but I know how to whatever do this or that or whatever he said. I'm no buff hunk. I'm never going to be a buff hunk. That's not me."
Right.
Yeah, he was a little guy, but he was well dressed, well groomed, had a great career path, and our society and everything in it right now values a woman that's a certain shape, a man that's a certain type, certain shape, has a certain job. This is all illusionary. It's an illusion. The only thing that what it boils down to is how do you feel about yourself and your life?
Right.
That's what it really boils down to, and you got to have that reckoning in order to dispel the virus. You have strength that other people don't have, and the college degree is just a piece of paper. I'd seen. Here's the interesting thing, and I'll be very quick about this. I saw the Acropolis in Athens twice. I saw it in 1970 while it was a pile of ruins that had soot marks from the coal burning in the city of Athens. And then I saw it again 9 years ago. I saw it again after it had been cleaned up, and now it was being put back together. I saw the Roman Colosseum when it was literally as it had been for decades, hundreds of years. And you could walk into it. It hadn't been reconstructed yet or in any way. They hadn't had put any money into it. It was just sitting there next to the Forum Romana. And I walked into this thing, and you could walk down into where the gladiators and the animals hung out. And it was all overgrown with weeds and all this other kind of stuff. And then I saw it again 20 years ago. That was in 1970. I saw it again 20 years ago when it had, after the Pope had done I think it was, he had done some sort of special thing in there, and they had basically created these ramps that you walked on, and you could no longer walk down into the bottom area where we freely went because of one thing or another. I mean, I would go to college and I'd tell people this, and they go, "What?" It's not about book smarts. It's like I've been there. I saw that thing. That painting that's in this book, that we're studying. Yeah, I've seen that. I saw that in the museum and so and so.
For sure.
And they're like, "What?"
I agree.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the degree that's important. It's what you do to get the degree. You meet people. You leave home and you find out who the heck you are. I knew who I was, and it was an ever-evolving thing. Right? It continued over the last 30 years.
100%.
So that's how you get to the heart of a thought virus. Okay, you have to recognize that is what you're operating from. That's the premise. That's the belief you have in yourself. You dispel the belief by expanding by understanding it, that it exists, and then moving from there to do whatever you need to do to move beyond it.
Yep.
That's how you have
absolutely.
And there,
and ironically, I picked up that that book, after not like looking at it for ages, the 365 Days of Wonder, and I open it up and it says success does not come through grades, degrees, or distinctions. It comes through experiences that expand your belief in what's possible. And
there you go.
Yep, 100%. And, I love that, and I love how you express that you love yourself the way you are. And I would encourage each one of our audience members to get rid of the disclaimers of whatever it is that somebody put on you, that thought virus, and really love yourself the way you are, see yourself as wonderful. Instead of saying I can't do that, say I can do anything I want, right? And see the gifts that you have to not only give other people, but also give yourself. I think, that's really how we change the negative beliefs into something positive, and that's when something happens. That's how we change our frequency. That's how we change what's going on in the planet. We feel strength and joy, and, it's just all part of that journey of self-discovery and self-exploration. And, and I'm going to let you close out the show, Michael, because you just have, there's so much that you can say about that, and I'd love for you to close it out.
I think that, in my view, basically, what I think really doesn't matter, but everybody, what you think about yourself is really what matters. And life is a huge opportunity. You just have to get past the illusion of what's going on outside of you. You have to see what's going outside of you as an illusion, as an opportunity to gain further knowledge about yourself, because you're the one reacting and responding to everything that's going on outside of you. That's what I can say, and that's a whole show in itself. However, that's a good place to begin thinking about the world as an illusion, everything outside of you as an opportunity for you to be a better person based on how you respond to it. And this has been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, thank you. And everybody have an awesome week, and look forward to our next adventures together. Thank you so much.